We're live here with Dick Griffin. Could you tell us about your origins?
Yeah, I was born in Fannin, Mississippi, 1940, on a snowy day. Very cold, 7 o'clock in the morning. And Fannin is about 18 miles from Jackson, Mississippi. And now they still, at this point, they don't even recognize Fannin that much. They have Brandon. Brandon has expanded their limits. But yeah, I was born in 1940 in what we call the country, which is now we would call it suburbs, the outside of the city. And about after I was a year old, my mother married my stepfather. And and that was, I was born in January. A year later in February, my mother got married to my stepfather. And that part of my life was really very, very interesting and happy, and as any child would experience. Going to church was our major thing. And I got, I fell in love with music early because one of my neighbors, Mr. Jesse, he played the blues guitar every day, Monday through Friday, Saturday and Sunday. He didn't most of the time, but Monday through Monday through Friday, maybe Saturday because Sunday was, you know, they call it the blue laws were in. I mean, people went to church everywhere in my neighborhood. They acknowledged Sunday as being the church, and everybody would dress up. That was the day that we wore different clothes and dressed up and went to church. And I would hear music in church, and that's when I think I was deciding that I like music very much and got involved. And unfortunately, my stepfather got killed 1947. I was born in 1940 in a car accident. And I had two sisters at the time, and my mother was pregnant with the third sister, my youngest sister, Minnie. And the accident happened in July, and my sister was born in September. So she was in a maternity suit at the funeral. That's mine. Lots of other small details or big details, but that got me up to the time I got involved in taking piano lessons. Because we didn't have a piano, but one of my good friends, he's gone now, Herbert Delaney, he was my mentor. I owe so much to him, and I always tell him that it wasn't for him, I probably would have been taking different directions in life. But he had a piano, so I would practice at his house, and I started taking piano lessons at 11, and that took me up to just being involved in music, singing and playing, and the reason I did that is because I admired the professional musicians that came to town, and once a year we called it the state fair. We called it fairgrounds. At that time, it was segregated. The first week was white people would go to the fair. Second week, the black people would go to the fair, and they had a show there called Harlem in Havana. It was out of Tampa, Florida. Leon Claxton booking agent booked them. And when the fair came, I was always trying to make money. Selling newspapers, doing everything I could, work any kind of way I could to make some money. But when the fair came, we had a lot of opportunities to make money. And we would help them set up the tents, we were young kids and everything. And then there was only, it's interesting, at that time, there was no fast food, so nobody could order anything or go to a fast food. But Mr. Ethel had a cafe, and all those cafes had good cooks in them. So all the musicians would come over to Mr. Ethel's cafe and eat, because that was one thing that all of them, regardless of how famous they were or how big they were, they all had to eat. And most of the time at 12 o'clock, we called it dinner time. People working on 9 to 5 jobs, there was always a dinner break from 12 to 1. It was almost standard. Everybody went to lunch, and we called it lunch up here in New York, but they called it dinner. And at the end of the day, when we ate, it was supper time. And but I always admired the musicians because they were dressed so cool, and they didn't have coins on their hands, and every time I saw them, they were dressed, and that was a big issue in the South, because there were two types of people in the South: the people that were doing legal stuff while living, and people that were doing illegal stuff while living. And the people that were doing sort of off the books or illegal kind of stuff, they always dressed real nice, and they didn't have coins in their hands because they didn't do any manual labor. They were pigeon droppers and all kinds of con men and pool sharks. I know some guys that hustled, around the pool. That's all they did. And they win everybody's money, So all I'm saying is that I was just so in awe about those professional musicians, the way they look, how cool they look, and how well they dress. And this is a secret, not a secret, but we were young, like 12 then. But they had a midnight show where the strippers were stripped naked. One person or whatever, they were stripped naked. So they wouldn't let, the young kids, they couldn't see that show, but we would sneak and see the show because we would be looking under the canvas, and we'd see the show and wait. Oh, that would make our day to go over and see the midnight show, to see the lady get naked, And I got a chance at that time to see Peg Leg Baked. Some of the really, really classic, great musicians was on that particular, circuit. And it was almost similar to the minstrel shows that went, minstrel shows that went all around, and perform and entertain people. So that's it.
Could you tell us about your early career?
My early career, well, I used to do a lot of little things to make money, hustle, and it was not so easy after my stepfather. I never ever thought of him as my stepfather. I always thought of him as my father until I discovered my biological father, later in my life when I finished college. But I started making money and performing in high school. In my early career, yeah, I think the first time made some money in music was there was a talent show, and the grand prize was $10. So we had this doo-wop group, and it was at the Alamo Theater. It was almost like Showtime at the Apollo Theater, but we were very good in a sense, no doubt about it. We won the talent show for 6 months straight, and weekly we would get $2.50, and that was a lot of money because it was nickel for a cone of ice cream. The movies was 10 cents or a nickel to go to. Oh man, just $2.50 was a lot. It's about as much as some people work for a whole day. Because they were working about for a day, $3 a day or something like that. Wages was, it was less, maybe, 40 hours, $1 an hour. Because that's about the way I can fact check that now, but back in the 40s, that's what it was. It stayed that way. Minimum wage, was $1 an hour. And people worked 40 hours a week, and they got $40 for the week. Plus, they had to take out tax on that. So, but when I started to play music, then after we started winning talent show, I had a band. Around my 11th grade, I was full throttle. I had a band. I was in the vocal group, and we were making money playing gigs and stuff. So it started in high school, and it never stopped to today. But still.
And could you tell us about Chicago?
Yeah, Chicago, special place in my life. 1959 was my first trip out of Mississippi, where I didn't see a sign that said colored and white, restrooms and water fountains and all that. And there was a Mason-Dixon line that when you were traveling, you got above Tennessee, going into Kentucky, and maybe in Indiana, that's when you signed. I know it was all through Tennessee, and I'm not sure exactly what that line was. That's what they call the Mason-Dixon line. And you get on the bus, and I remember when you get off the bus, you had to go to the colored waiting room. White people went to the white waiting room, colored went to the colored waiting. But then after a while on that bus, the bus just stopped and you went in, everybody went in the same waiting room. And that was called the Mason, past or get above the Mason-Dixon line. So my first trip to Chicago, I stayed with my great aunt, my grandmother's sister, and Camille. And Aunt Camille would come down south to visit her sister and my mother's aunt. My mother would call her Aunt Camille because that was her mother's sister. So I was staying Aunt Camille. Aunt Camille was kind of strict, I guess, and I appreciate it. Then I'm from the South and 19 years old, and just the things that a 19-year-old would get into or do and everything. But I was much more mature and trustworthy. I got, I grew up pretty fast. I had to, I must say. So my Aunt Camille would have a curfew, say, I want you in by dark, Oh, I haven't had that in a long time, but so that's when I first got involved with playing with Sun Ra, 59. at the Persian Lounge, and I was talking to Henry Threadgill not too long ago, and he was much younger than me, but he remembered when the Persian Ballroom, which is in the same hotel, was where Amon Jamal, the great late Jamal, had Ponciana, and he recorded that up there in that ballroom. So it was just a beautiful musical area. 63rd and Cottage Grove. The L's stopped there, and I think now I think that's where they end. It's in the stop, but it used to go all the way down to the lake, all the way down 63rd Street. But yeah, that was Chicago, and I had a lot of good musical experiences and meeting musicians like Muhal and just everybody that was involved in the AACM that was around Chicago around my age. Yeah.
Could you tell us more about meeting Sun Ra and playing with him?
Oh yeah, it was one afternoon because my Aunt Camille had a curfew, so, but I would go out during the day and just walk around the neighborhood, and if I heard somebody, I used to walk by the buildings and hear guys practicing, and saxophone, they'd be, in them places, and so I went by this club, the hotel, Persian hotel, and I heard the music, live music. I said, oh wow, I went in, and that's when I met Sun Ra, and he said, I told him I played trombone. He said, bring you on tomorrow and join us. So that was it. And every day I was there. Because I just love music. To the day, I still like playing music. And, music is hard to explain if you're a musician, how you feel and what you achieve and how you express yourself. But so that was it. My first meeting Sun Ra and then playing with him, and couldn't wait until the summer come because I was telling Threadgill and guys who lived in Chicago who dealt with that harsh winter. I didn't do it. I was there a summer in Chicago, and one time when I had moved to New York in the early 70s, and at that time I was telling the guy I played with Willie Colon, Joey Pastrana, Tito Puente, all the guys. I just played, I was in the Latin music, period, So it must have been Joey Pastrana. So he had a gig in Chicago, but there was a big Latin. So it was in February. I went there in February, and I never to the day experienced any cold like that cold was. Your feet froze. Like it was really your feet, everything got cold. And the wind was blowing, and I don't care what kind of layers of clothes you had, Chicago, it would be below zero, 20 below and all kinds of stuff with the wind chill. So, so the joke on me is I got off the L. I think, we might have been living downtown in the Loop. I got off the L. I was going to visit some of my friends on the south side. And there was a Walgreens drugstore up there forever. And Lou Rawls sang about the Walgreens drugstore. Everybody knew on the south side where that Walgreens drugstore was. And right across the street from it was McKee's Fitzgerald, and I went there and I was so disappointed that space was still there, but it was just like had like a building that hadn't been couldn't even go inside and use it. It was just such a sad place, but a lot of great music. So anyway, I'm off the L and go down the stairs and waiting for the bus. So that was my thing. And I saw the bus almost across the street. My feet were so cold, I jumped in a cab. I couldn't take it. So that was Chicago. Lots of music and I met Sun Ra there.
And what happened leading up to coming to New York?
What happened leading up? Well, I went to graduate school at Indiana University. My last trip to Chicago was '63. That was the year I graduated from Jackson State for my undergrad, my bachelor's. So when I went to Chicago, and in the summer, I just said, okay, I'm staying in Chicago. I would go every summer. I mean, it was the minute the doors were closed for school, I was on the first train or bus going to Chicago. So I got up to Chicago, and my goal was, since I was pretty active with the music scene there and playing with different guys, I was going to stay, and I stayed until October. And my mother called me and said, the lady from the draft board said, get in touch with her. So I called her. I said, yes, I'm teaching, and blah, blah, blah. He said, you have to teach in this state that you, in order to get a deferment. So I jumped on the first thing to come back because I wasn't going to do the Army thing. So I got back, and I taught 2 years at Columbia, Mississippi. And Walter Payton and Ed Payton, his brother, were my students. So for 2 years, Walter at the time, he was like 14, he was junior high school. He wasn't, hadn't developed into the player that he finally developed into. And so that answers your question.
And could you tell us about some of the other people you worked with at that time, or going into New York, who you started working with there?
And when I came to New York? Well, I first came to New York in '64. After I didn't do Chicago anymore, '63. So I came to, and I had met Rashawn Roland Kirk in Chicago at McKee's. And he was married to Edith Kirk. And at that time, Rory, his son, wasn't even born. And he was blind, but so smart. I mean, he had the IQ, very, very, very smart. And so when I came in '64 to New York, I would rehearse with him. I played with him, played a gig with him at St. Peter's Church. And he introduced me to Charles Mingus. I sat in with Charles Mingus. I had a big band play my music the summertime arrangement. I hadn't written the shout course, but that was at the 5 Spot. And my friend, he just passed away last year. He remembered that. He told me all about it, and he was there when I passed out the chart. Cedar Walden was in the band, probably Clifford Jordan, and Jimmy Owens was in that band. He's still with us. But most of the people that were in that band are not living anymore. And see, they kind of, almost was getting ready to pack it up, and the guy said, that guy over there, he's got an arrangement, I'm this young guy from Mississippi. Oh yeah, pass out your arrangement. And then I passed out some of the time. They dug it and oh wow. And then Caesar said, "Can I keep the arrangement, Dick? I like it. Can I keep it?" I said, "Sure." And I asked him about it later. He said, "Oh, I gave it to a friend in Detroit." No, I don't believe that, but maybe he did. So New York. Oh man, when I first got here, around '64, I was playing with Joe Henderson, Kenny Durham, big band. Uh, oh man, Howard McGee had a band. The great trumpet player Howard McGee had a band, and when I finally moved here, I was always just Sun Ra band. Sun Ra was my stable band. I was playing with Sun Ra and Rasan when I got here, and until Sun Ra moved to Philadelphia. And I guess being a part of the music team, one of the very nice person helped me develop and was Frank Foster. He had a big band, and I used to play in his big band, and I recorded on his Law Minority, and we had a special kind of relationship. And in that band, Elvin Jones was playing drums, and Charles McGee was on that one. But it's the Law Minority. But I used to play Sunday matinees at Slugs with Frank Foster, big band. Monday night with Sun Ra every Monday night. And then if I was working at the Vanguard with Rasan for the whole week, I would be doing Tuesday through Sunday at the Vanguard. And I loved it. I mean, wasn't never too much work for me. I was just all over the place. I loved playing, and I was doing so much playing, Yeah, that's it. So what else?
Who were some of the other older musicians that you had a chance to meet around that time?
Oh, I met Slam Stewart. I met the great tenor player, Coleman Hawkins. I met Tyree Glenn. I met Louis Armstrong. I met his bass player. What was his name? We did a show together. So I was into meeting I loved meeting over here. I didn't meet Trump Young, but the other one, Vic Dickerson. I met him. I met Brandon. What is this? Candy Ross. Yeah, Brandon Ross. Candy Ross. I met George Matthew. He played on Count Basie's first record, lead trombone player. George Matthew was in the house band of the Apollo, but he was the trombone player with Count Basie when Count Basie formed his Basie band. Then I met, I met Howard Johnson, alto player that played way back with all the guys. I met the saxophone player, Eddie Barfield. Oh man, he was there with Art Tatum. He was the guy when Art Tatum was around Toledo. He was a big time. Eddie Barfield was, big time artist. And the guy said, "Hey man, I want you to hear this piano player," and he was nah, ooh, and he getting ready to walk out the door, and Art Tatum started playing. He came back in. He was there like, wow, I've never heard anything like this before. But Eddie Barfield, Bobby Green, all these guys, Hal Ashford. Oh man, I mean, I was just lucky to meet Babe Clark. Oh man, Ernie Royal. I used to record with Ernie Royal all the time. The guy, very good, Ray Nance. Oh, Doc Cheatham. Cat Anderson. I just met a lot of guys.
Could you tell us about meeting Monk?
Oh, now, Monk and I became very good friends because we played for 5 years opposite each other at the Vanguard. And we would spend 3 weeks before Christmas and 3 weeks after Christmas as a double bill. And he took a liking to me. Number one, I was just always around. And then when I started, he heard me play the multiphonics once. He stopped and said, "Play that again." I played it. And he check that out, He liked that. So when he would, guys come in and they would call him T. "Hey T, what's going on?" And he'd throw his hand out of my signal to play the multiphonic. And he'd grin his teeth and say, "Check that out, check that out." And so we got to be very good friends. And the Baron knew that Monk liked me, So if I went to the village gate, she would come out, and say, "T wants you to come over and sit with us, He didn't talk much, but when he said something, it was so prolific, I remember when I came in, he was recording the Underground record. And he was saying, "Man, make a record. It's like writing a book." And he said, "You gotta make sure that every track on the record is related, like a chapter in the book." And he said, "The record's gonna be here longer than you, so you gotta make a good record." That was it, And he was 1917, I think, was his birthday. And that was the same birthday as my father. So I'm my biological father, I never was raised with him. But I was gravitated towards older guys because I knew they had the information and I respected them enough. And to listen, And most of them, all of them were right on, what they had experience, wisdom. Now I'm 84 and I think I got some wisdom. Because it's all about knowledge, and knowledge is power. And it's all about knowing how to get the knowledge. Because the knowledge that worked 10 years ago doesn't work today. So you have to think that way. Back in the day, people traveled horse and buggy. And then all of a sudden they invented the T-model Ford, T-model Ford. and they start driving in cars. And then all of a sudden, somebody said, I want to fly on these, something like kites be flying or whatever. Then they invented the airplane. Now they got rockets going all the way up into space. And now, think about it. If I had another 50 years to live, who knows what would it be? People might be going up to Mars every day just to work and come back. Yeah, I gotta go, man. I gotta go to Mars tomorrow. I'm gonna be up there about 3 weeks. Yeah, what's going on? I'll go. If you're up there, go see this and go see that. Go. You know. Nobody thought that you would, back then. That's one thing about Sunrise. Now they got watches that you can talk on, yeah, Dick Tracy. But back then, it was Dick Tracy. He had, and Sunrise used to look at a lot of comic books because I knew he was always studying. That's one thing I noticed about him when I met him. He was always reading. I had something, he was looking at comic books. He was thinking about space and about the universe and everything. He was very, very smart too, another high IQ person. Yeah, so that's what happened. Like IA. IA is got the world. Whoa, you know, could you imagine what's gonna happen with IA 5 years from now? What IA will be, how it be used, and how it will be abused. You know. Yeah. So that's where I am. Another question?
Who were some of your uh, contemporaries on trombone, and what was the relationship like between you and them at that time?
Hmm. I we I never had a really great relationship with other trombone guys that I really admired. You know, like Slide Hampton. JJ was a very supportive and a good friend of mine. You know, with some trombone. But Curtis Fuller was definitely he was just like, you know, he called me Griffin, you know, because he noticed I would do the multiphonics. Um, but my relationship was pretty, how can I say it, pretty cordial. I didn't try to hang with them because what I was doing was not what they were doing in a sense, you know. Now, Slide Hampton, he said, oh, he admired everything JJ did. JJ was his mentor, his God. And he told me he said, man, uh, you don't play in the tradition of J.J. Johnson. That's what I said, all right, you play the free stuff. I said, oh, no problem. So he told me to his face, and we never got like cozy, you know. And I had my limitations. He was right. I wasn't technically at that level, you know. He knew it, I knew it. So I didn't bother with, you know, trying to be a part of the Slide Hampton group. And with some great players, you know. They had great technique and could read and could play and so you know, my relationship with other trombone players was so. Because I still don't hear any other trombone players ideal in my head. I hear my idea. It's different. To be different, you gotta think different, you gotta feel different. So other trombone players, I respect them, and I guess they most of them kind of respected me, but I'm not a trombone player guy, you know. I don't have no clique. I don't hang out with nobody. Yeah.
And what about T-Neck and some of the other people that you knew there? Um, Someone that comes to mind is McCoy Tyner.
Yeah, McCoy. I met McCoy in Chicago, and I was 19 my first trip up there. And there's a bass player named Edgar Willis. He, well, Edgar's maybe 5 years or 6 years older than me, but he had been in Chicago a long time, and so Edgar invited me and McCoy over to his house for lunch, and that's when I met him. McCoy was just about a couple of years older than me, so he was probably 21 and I was 19 or something like that. And ever since then, we've been friends. And there again, with other musicians who respect me, I recorded twice with him, you know, on two of his records. So, but my relationship with McCoy was just like we were talking about family and nothing about music too much, you know. I see him, his wife was shopping in her favorite dress shop, so he would be standing across the street just hanging, you know. And a lot of time I'd walk up on him and I say, "Yeah, your wife shopping? Yeah, yeah, man." We just talk. We sit there and we stand there and talk for an hour or something about just everything. And then in 2002 or sometime around, they honored him in Philadelphia, and I was part of that. I went down to Philly and played, and you know, uh, united with some people like um, Norman Connors. You know, he was my drummer for a long time. You know, and you know, he got to be big in the cool jazz world, and we got a chance to play and talk and just it was nice. Gary Bartz was down there. We played together and talked. And the trumpet player from Detroit uh, that everybody studied with, Marcus Belgrave. He was there. It was very interesting. Yusef Latif came, and just a lot of people honoring McCoy Tyner. It was called Tyner Time. I'm very I like to film, so I got some footage around for that gig. Some of it, I think we were playing with Gene Kahn, Norman on drums, and Gary Bartz. We had a band, you know, we performed in a club that week. T-Neck, yeah, T-Neck was interesting. Jimmy Reynolds is a great bass player. We used to play tennis every day. And my good friend Charlie, that's his hat, he passed away. But we were great, you know, we'd be out there playing tennis, and you know, he was a lefty. And it was always, I mean, some good friends. His brother came to the concert we did at the pier, Eddie, it's all. So T-Neck was different. I went there, I was married, I got a divorce there, and I stayed around, mm, you know, for my son in Teaneck. So I didn't live in the marital house and all that. But I had a good rhythm for Teaneck because I love playing tennis, you know. And to the day, You know, everybody go to the post office, everybody know everybody. There's no lines, there's no really pushing and shoving, you know. It is bedroom neighborhood. Great for families. If you got a family, you got wife, kids, that's your spot.
I want to go back to Jackson and ask you about the social rights movement and some of the people you met there within that.
Okay. My high school had some great guys. Uh, Charles Wilson, we call him Fess, and Mr. H.M. Thomas. And H.M. Thomas was a mathematician in my high school, but he had been to the Army and he had studied some math in Russia and some weird stuff. So he was one of the top mathematicians in the state, even though he was black. So the white teachers would come and try to study with him at night. And there were some good spots about being segregated, you know, that it was not just a negative. I told everybody saying, oh man, y'all didn't have this, y'all couldn't sit here and you couldn't do that. But now, looking back, we were more comfortable, powerful, and connected than we are now. And it's all about economics, you know. So my cousin was one of the first civil rights, freedom riders. And Miller Green lived on my street. And he was, the federal government came in to assist people in Mississippi because they had young Mississippi people protesting. And Martin Luther King was there all the time and was his headquarters. And I used to eat lunch every day with Medgar Evers, very good friend of mine. Stokely Carmichael, I met them when they were arrested. You know, just getting the Black Power movement together. So I'm the same age as they were. And Congressman Lewis, I'm the same day we were born in 1940. He passed away, but that was it. You know, Jackson was the headquarters, and it was dangerous, much more dangerous outside of Jackson. And you know, Small Money, Mississippi, and all those places, Batesville, and all those places, they had a terrible reputation for being nasty to black people and all that. And that's about it, you know.
Could you tell us about working with Marvin Gaye?
Marvin Gaye, I worked with him during the 70s. And we did a summer. We played every weekend somewhere. We would play, and on the East Coast, we would take a bus. It would be just on the weekend. We'd go down Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. I think we went to Florida. I don't remember. But playing all the major cities with Marvin. He was very nice band leader because he was a musician, singer, and everything. But I always tell everybody that was my best band leader I've ever worked with. because of the way he treated, you know, the musicians and treated me and everything. He would come down, shake your hand, look you in the eye, and say, "Thank you so much for playing with me every night." And we all lived in 5-star hotels. There was no like, this is for the band and this is for the star. So we didn't go through that routine. But I played with so many great R&B musicians. I played with the Jacksons in 1975 at Radio City. So Janet Jackson was 10 years old, and Michael was about 17. The whole Jackson family called her Jackson for a week. And Tito just passed. I don't know, they said it was a heart attack. But he was such a nice guy. Back there as a teenager, you know. Yeah, so that's it.
How has your playing or art changed over time?
Oh, ups and downs, you know. It's always changing. Because I'm always striving for something better, and I'm always doing something different. You know, I do get something different. I get bored real quick if I'm doing the same thing. So it's changing now.
And could you tell us about some of the other people, like John Coltrane, meeting him?
Yeah, I met him in Chicago at McKee's, and he only played the soprano. And that was during the period when I just met McCoy. Because during that time we had lunch and everything. So it was the quartet. And I didn't, you know, I went, because he was just, you know, he was nice talking to everybody. He was seemed soft-spoken, very nice guy. And that was it. So then, that was like 61, 62. And then I went to when I came to New York, he was playing at Birdland, the original Birdland with Pee Wee Marcus and all that. So, in all these clubs, they played for a week, you know, Tuesday through Sunday. That was it. If you had a gig in the Vanguard or any club, it was a Tuesday through Sunday. Monday night was the all night, and they had a lot of clubs to play. And so anyway, he was playing at Birdland, and I went up to him afterwards and introduced myself, and I asked him, can I help him, you know, with his home? And he said, sure. So I carried his tenor to his station wagon, because he was tired, you know, he had been playing and everything. And then later on, in 67, Pharoah Sanders and I, we were very good friends. I used to play Monday nights at Slovis with him. And he had told Alice and John about me doing the multiphonic, so they wanted to hear me. And I was scheduled to go sit in with them and jam or whatever in June, but in my grad, you know, school getting my master's degree, said I had to take a English proficiency. I didn't take, you know, somehow it wasn't scheduled or something that was overlooked or oversight. So I had to go to summer school from June to August. And John Coltrane died July 17th. So they knew about me, and I was scheduled to go play with them or jam with them. Wouldn't it be a gig if they gonna let me sit in. And that was the period that he was doing that. He would let people sit in. So that's about it, right? What else?
Do you have any advice to students of music?
Yeah. Students of music. The more you put in the studying, the better you're gonna be. You know. At this age, there's no shortcuts. There's no miracle ways of finding it. I think you got to pick up a shovel and dig and dig and dig every day until you do it. So think about that as if we got all these modern stuff, dishwashers and lawnmowers and everything, but the people who got what you want to get or want to learn, they did it the old way. They did it without a sewing machine. So if you want to really get it, you have to go at it slowly and diligently, and you can grow. Because everything is from slow to fast, crawl to walk, everything. Nobody comes out the womb walking or running. No idea that comes up in your head is so developed that is ready to write a book about it. So hard work is key. All the great virtuosos and everything I know, they did it, practice a lot, and people go back to that old saying, practice, practice, practice. But that's my advice to any young musician. Practice, 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 and let it happen mentally before. Sometimes you're trying to do something, but you have to let go and let your mind do it. I found that out. And most people want to control things, but at some point in your playing, you're not in control. That's it.
And could you tell us about your painting?
Yeah, I started, living in Paris, and I really get started until I move here. Now that has developed quite well. I at least find about 400 pieces of art. There is just painting and music. My friend Marion Brown, he was saying it ain't no difference. He had this southern drawl all the time. It ain't no difference between music, Painting is like that. You got to pick up that brush and do something every day, and you develop and you have these ideas and see it in your head and develop. So painting is just like music, striving for something different. That's it.
And could you tell us if spirituality has a role in your art and your music?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I was brought up in the church, and I still believe in the Creator, higher being. So yeah, spiritual. that's what I find that when I listen to a lot of musicians, that element is missing. But yeah, that's that's what John Coltrane, Charlie Parker, Miles Davis, all those guys had a spirit. They touched the nerves and a spot in your brain that very few people can touch. And I think spirituality is dealing with being not being afraid, because it's faith. When you have faith in something, you don't know whether it's gonna sound good, or if you're cooking something, you don't know whether it's gonna taste good, but you put your faith in it. That's where the spirit out it comes. Anything else?
Could you tell us about your current projects and performances?
Uh, I just finished a concert at a children's park on September 7th. At this point, I got a few things that hasn't been finalized to perform. And my art is also in that stage where I'm just formalizing things. Nothing nailed down, no definite contracts or anything. Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to share with us?
No, it's just like everybody's in a different place. Everybody needs a different thing. There's a saying, you got to be willing to give up who you are in order to become who you want to be. And if you're unhappy with where you are, you have to realize you are the person that put you there. So try to stay on the positive side, upbeat side. Don't get depressed. Don't give up. Because the word hope is so prevalent in this day and it's so needed. Because there's a saying, and I'll say it, stay green and you grow. Once you get ripe, you fall off the tree and die. So stay green and grow. So that's what I think. That's what I have to say.
All right, thank you so much.
You're welcome.